Hey, what's up guys, Shuckleking here, bringing you a unique new video I'm going to be doing in terms of the Draft League format for the new DLC, Crown Tundra. So this video is going to be talking about Draft League tiering changes for the new Mons that are introduced in the Crown Tundra DLC. Now, I'm going to be doing this ranking not necessarily in terms of like S tier is going to be tier 1, Tier A is going to be Tier 2, because mostly every mon is going to be in the same, if you're going to go by GBA tiering systems, they're going to basically stay in the same tier. So I don't think I've seen some people post these videos, I don't think that's generally too helpful, because for the most part, there's not going to be mons that have got really, really significant buffs or really significant flaws, maybe outside of a select few that I'll talk about, but this video will be ranking about how I think they've improved or worsened in the Draft League format compared to Gen 7 versus Generation 8. Now, before I get into this, I know a lot of you guys have been watching my content lately because of the WBE power rankings, and I greatly appreciate that. If you could consider giving a subscription so you make sure you catch all of my future videos, that would be greatly appreciated. So, there's some changes to obviously Generation 8 that weren't there in Generation 7. So, no Pursuit. Definitely makes Psychic types better and Dark types worse. No Signal Beam. For the most part, doesn't make too big of a difference. But it makes a difference for maybe one or two mons that I talk about. No Hidden Power. That's great, especially for, say, like Zygarde and Garchomp are going to be coming in. They don't have to worry about Hidden Power Ices. So that's definitely a big buff for them. And on the opposite side, mons that did utilize Hidden Power, say Ice, to deal with those mons are going to be weaker. No Return, though a lot of Pokemon got normal coverage like Mega Kick, Mega Punch, and Body Slam. So that's not that big of a deal, honestly. Obviously, no Megas. That's a pretty big one. But I'm not going to be talking about Megas in this video, obviously, because they aren't going to be introduced in the DLC as far as we're aware of. If they are, then this video is totally invalidated, but that'd be great. Same thing with no Z moves. Highly assuming that's not going to be the case, I think Dynamaxing is the unique formatted choice for Generation 8. So they're all the significant things that got removed from the game, and things that did get added were heavy-duty boots. That's going to be a huge one for the viability of certain mons in this. Room service is an item, but I don't think I made that a factor for any of the mons, honestly, in this list. Teleport got a buff, as we can see with Slowbro. Was already a pretty decent water type, and I think it's among the best water types. Could be seen, honestly, as like a low tier 1, high tier 2 for sure. So that's definitely nice there. Same with Slowking. I think Slowking's a lot better than what it was in Generation 7. Defog got a slight buff that it removes terrain. I don't think that makes a significant difference in terms of viability of mons, but it might. Rapid Spin got a speed boost, so mons that have Rapid Spin in this new DLC, I'm going to probably generally favor a little bit more than I did before. So a couple trends, as you guys know, I played 3 Wi-Fi leagues in Aerodactyl, and I was able to win all 3 of them, which was very cool. And there were a couple trends that don't necessarily relate to national decks. So some people are playing national decks on Showdown, and that's a different format than the Galar decks for sure, because it obviously allows everything, including Megas, and some also add Z moves. But the Galar decks, there were some trends that also might make mons better or worse that are going to be adding into the DLC. And one thing, huge thing, in my opinion, were Steel types were very bad. There were very limited ones out there. Let me pull up a list of the Steel types that were allowed. So let's go on. I'll go on the UDL, or not UBL. I was in UDL. So UBL's tier list, because that's probably the best one out there, most competitive league out there that's doing DLC right now. So Aegislash was at the top. Melmetal was at the top. That was borderline banned in some leagues. Corviknight, very decent mon. Excadrill was up there. Then you have Skarmory, which is very solid. Ferrothorn, which I think is great. So that's 6 mons right now. Then the next best mon is what? Like Cobalion, but that's not really a great sturdy steel type that you generally draft a steel type for. Duraludon's not great. Bronzong is a decent bulky steel type. So that's like 7 decent bulky steel types, and then you're getting into very cheap stuff like Ferroseed at that point. So steel types are very limited in Draft League, and I noticed that in my drafts. I think we had, I think I had Cobalion for TBL, EWT, I had Aegislash, so I had a great one. APA, I had, did I not have a steel type? I don't that was such a long time ago. I don't recall me actually getting a steel type in that, and I don't think the website's going to be updated to have that information, so not sure. But yeah, steel types are very bad, and hopefully, oh no, here's the list. So I got Steelix, and Steelix also, that's another solid one. So like 7 or 8 steel types, and if you're in a 16-man draft, there's only 8 or so steel types to get, and there's going to be more that are introduced, which is great. But yeah, you wanted to get a steel type pretty early on, and I think that's still going to be the case in this meta. The speed was very bad. I was looking around the UDL Tier 1 and Tier 2 list. There were 14 Mons ahead, base 100 speed or more, and that's not a lot. Tier 1, Tier 2 is what I'm considering they're 120 point tier and higher. There are a couple like Talonflame and Noivern that are also very good, but we're in Tier 3. So 14 Mons that were over base 100 speed. So not a lot of speed, so we definitely want to patch that up ideally. And this new DLC is adding 15. What I consider Tier 1, Tier 2 Mons that are going to be over base 100 speed. So speed is not going to be as big of an issue as it was before, but 14 plus 15 is 29. So you probably want to grab at least a minimum 1 of those Mons. 2 would probably be ideal. Dragapult, Reign Supreme, like the Mon was broken, and I had it in 2 of the 3 leagues, and I did super well with it. Dragapult, you needed some type of low-tier fairy or low-tier normal type to deal with Dragapult. Almost every team had a draft one if they had any chance against them on. So there's going to be more fairy types and steel types introduced. So I don't think Dragapult is going to be as big of a threat as it was, but it was still a huge threat. And I don't think you necessarily have to draft for it. So Mons that like were drafted for the purpose kind of dealing with Dragapult, like Wigglytuff, aren't going to be as useful at this point. There's a lot of rock types introduced because a lot of the fossil types are going to be around. So a lot of rocks. So Mons that deal with rock types are going to be nice, and Mons that are weak to rock types are going to be worse. And there's a lot of flying types because there are a lot of flying legendaries. So same thing for those. The Tier 5, just because it's a limited dex, the Tier 5 is pretty horrendous. I got Rotom Frost for APA Academy, and that was great. That's probably a Tier 4 Mon, but yeah, it's really bad. So even though we're going to be adding some not great fossil Mons, at least it'll be more options to pick from in Tier 4 or Tier 5, because Tier 4 also wasn't that great either. It was okay. Yeah, as I think some of these Mons will be able to shine a little bit more. And there's an ability capsule, which will help with a couple Mons, giving them a little bit more viability. So that's like the general introduction into this video, and hopefully I'm not going to be taking forever with this video. I want to try to be short and concise with this, but I'm generally not, so let's see. And we got a crap ton of Mons to talk about. So first we got a Nidoqueen. So Nidoqueen, so I'll be explaining what the new moves are, what I think are going to be the pluses and minuses, and overall where they're going to be. The average for Namon is going to be in B tier. So B tier means it's average. It's going to be the same ranking that it was in Generation 7 compared to Generation 8. If you're in like A or A tier, you have definite buffs. So you'll probably be, if you do like a point tier league, you're probably like 1 point higher than you were in the previous generation. And if you're S tier, you're probably 2 or 3 points at least higher than you were in the previous generation. For C tier, it's going to be the same thing, but 1 point lower. And D tier would be 2 or 3 points, or like 1 tier lower than it was for the previous generation. So yeah, let's get into Nidoqueen. So the new moves I got are Scorching Sands. Not sure how useful that's going to be, especially if you're going to be running Sheer Force. So you wouldn't be getting the burn chance with Sheer Force. Scorching Sands, Earth Power is going to be better. I suppose it helps with defense of poison point sets, but I think 80% of the time at least you want to run Sheer Force. So not terribly helpful there. It deals with a lot of the Ultra Beasts, which are pretty cool. It also deals with Heatran, which I think is going to be a pretty nice mon this generation. It's just a defensive poison type, so Toxic Spikes are slightly hurt by the Rapid Spin buff and Heavy Duty Boots to like ignore Toxic Spikes. It takes on electric types fine because it's a bulky ground type, and there's no hidden power ice for the electric types to deal super effective damage, but there's enough electric types out there that can still handle Nidoqueen. Like Thunduruses have a Psychic, Raiku has Skull now, Electivire is going to be new mon, has Earthquake, Zapdos has Hurricane to deal decent damage to it. Coco doesn't have a whole lot, so it denies Coco check. And it's good for Zeraora, I guess Dracozolt, but it could still run Outrage and do decent damage. And for the mons like Raiku, Scald, you could just run Passion Berry, Nidoqueen and still be fine. There's no Z moves, so like the extra bulk that Nidoqueen provides to allow you to live Z move hits probably isn't as important. So I think overall I'm gonna rate Nidoqueen as average, probably borderline below average, but I think it's gonna be just about as fine as it was before. Next we got Nito King. Really no new moves. It deals with the Ultra Beast kind of similar to a Nidoqueen because there's a lot of fairies to Tapu Koko, Tapu Bulu, Tapu Fini. At least Nito King is able to speed tie, which is definitely nice. Tapu Lele's maybe a different story for these two, but it deals with a decent amount of them. Also deals with Celesteela with a fire or electric coverage. I feel like it takes on electric types fine, especially same thing with a Nidoqueen. If you run a berry, you'll be able to take a hit. But Nito King is going to be faster, and it has a little bit more power. It also had speeds and a Necrozma. The speed difference doesn't help a whole lot. But I guess with a Scarf you can outspeed Dragapult, which is cool. I think Nito King and Nidoqueen are going to be in the same tier. Some tiers had Nito Queen as 1 point higher. I think they should be the same tier. I think Nito King is slightly better than Nidoqueen. Jinx, we have Encored and Future Sight as new moves. So that's a really nice strong Psychic Stab from a pretty high special attack. I believe it's base 115. So that's definitely nothing to, or maybe 105, but definitely nothing to I guess, discount. It has decent special attack. It has boots now to avoid rocks damage, which will definitely be nice. Though it's still obviously super frail on the physical defensive side. It could take special hits if it needs to. So is like Sash or Life Orb better than boots? I would say probably, but at least it gives it an option to maybe take special hits. It has Water Absorb for Dracovic, which was a pretty big threat, obviously, in a Generation 8 Galar decks. So that's definitely nice. And there's no Freeze Dry on Jinx, which is unfortunate, but it does have Psychic to hit Water type, so that's fine. The problem with Jinx is that it's not faster than a lot of the dragons. Like, it's faster than like Dragonite, which is nice. But even like Haxorus as first impression, so like a Scarf Jinx is going to be that great. So it has no Freeze Dry. If it had Freeze Dry, I think would be a lot better. But otherwise, I think it's about average. You're going to find it in tier 5. And it's going to still be the case. You'll still find it in tier 5, maybe tier 4 with all the lesser mons that are available. So, Omastar, it has Liquidation and Meteor Beam. So I feel like Shell Smash with Power Her Meteor Beam might be pretty cool. You need something. It doesn't have Hidden Power Grass for like Seismitoad, which is pretty unfortunate. I guess it has Ice Beam, which is fine. It's not going to do as much damage, and you're probably going to die to an Earth Power and Earthquake in general, but it should be okay. Hazards aren't as good with boots around, but it is a spike user, so that's definitely fine. And it gives Rain another maybe cheap sweeper, so I'll put it right in between these two. Omastar is going to be like a low tier 4, high tier 5 type of threat. Kabutops has Razor Shell, Leech Life, Cross Poison, so it has a couple options to hit bulky grass types, which is definitely nice. A Rapid Spin boost, so with base 80 speed, even outside of rain, you're going to be outspeeding the whole metagame, which is definitely nice. And it is, if you are going to use it in rain, it's faster than Dreadnought, which is definitely a plus, though it doesn't have Mega Horn unlike Dreadnought, which is unfortunate. Kabutops did like having Z-Rock access to not miss Stone Edge, but you can rely on Life Orb, that's fine. And with all the flying types being introduced, I feel like Scarfed Stone Edge or even like getting a Rapid Spin and then going for Stone Edge is going to be pretty solid for Kabutops. I don't think it's enough to really justify a rank higher, but I think it's still going to be pretty decent. So Aerodactyl, it has a Rock Blast, Dragon Dance, Hurricane, Psychic Fangs, Dual Wing Beat, Meteor Beam. So a lot of really, really cool options here. And you could call it like the new Noivern. Noivern definitely got better with boots. I think Aerodactyl kind of fits in that role. It's more physically offensive, obviously, than Noivern, and faster, but it doesn't have momentum. So definitely a trade-off there. Dragon Dance could be situationally good with Aerodactyl. I'm not sure how often it's going to use it. I mean, you're going to benefit more from the attack boost than the speed boost. But if you have a speed boost, you're definitely at Speeding Scarfer, so that's really nice. And also has a nerve, so you can make sure that opponents aren't going to be able to use berries that take like a +1 Stone Edge or whatever. I really liked Aerodactyl in Generation 7 with Z Fly Access. So it is definitely unfortunate that it doesn't have that. It does have dual Wing Beat to hit harder than like Wing Attack or Aerial Ace. And it does outspeed Tornadus, which I think is going to be a pretty solid mon in this generation. So I think this is going to be the first Pokemon I'm going to put as above average. Even though it does lose Z move access, I think having the extra bulk from heavy duty boots and being able to set up Dragon Dance is going to be pretty clutch for Aerodactyl. So Articuno has a Air Slash, Brave Bird, Triple Axle. All those moves probably aren't going to be run that much. Air Slash maybe a little bit, but it has boots. So boots is really, really huge for this mon. It's going to be a lot bulkier now. Obviously, it could take hits essentially twice as better because then I have to worry about Stealth Rocks. Defensively, the Ice type is really bad. Offensively, it's top 3 typing, probably at least. And it's also mon that can take on Dragapult pretty well because it has really high special defense, and it's weak to Thunderbolt, but it should take hits well, and it should take like Dragon Darts pretty okay. And Articuno does have a Freeze Dry to take on bulky waters. So I think it was probably, let me see. So I'm going to be using, in general, I am using the Cash Gang document as the baseline for what I'm using as like the tiers for Generation 7, though they don't always mesh up with like Wi-Fi tiers. I think this is a pretty accurate guideline of where the mons actually should sit. So Articuno was at 5 points, and I think it's definitely going to be a solid tier 4 option. So I'm going to put this at above average and probably above Aerodactyl because it does have more versatility now. Zapdos, Brave Bird, Hurricane. And Brave Bird's probably not going to be around a whole lot, though it definitely could be. It doesn't have terrible attack. Great response to all the Tornadus, Thundy, Landos, Celesteela, and boots are going to just make it even bulkier. And Zapdos is a really solid threat against the generally top-tiered mons. So that's definitely a pretty solid plus there. And also handles the generation mons like Melmetal handles okay, Corviknight, Cinderace, Dragapult, Rillaboom. It does handle Dracovish, but not a whole lot of mons do. It has Hurricane, so it's definitely unreliable compared to like Air Cutter, but also significantly better. But I don't think it's necessarily better than it was Generation 7. I think it does the same role as it did in Generation 7. It's still going to probably be your second best mon on your team, and it's great at countering a lot of the very high tier 1 mons. So I think it'll be right above average in terms of what it was last generation. Moltres got a Flare Blitz, Brave Bird, Scorching Sands. So it really likes Z moves, but I mean, you got boots. You can't complain. Similar to Articuno. It has okay bulk, but it has Flame Body. So it really really deters at least your opponent from spamming U-turn because you get the Flame Body burn. That's going to be very unfortunate. Pressure can also work, I suppose, but I think Flame Body is going to be the preferred ability for sure. You could take on Cinderace and Melmetal pretty well with this, and though it does lose like a Gracium Z Solar Beam to hit rock types, you have Scorching Sands now, so that's super nice. And I think it'll be a very solid tier 3 option. Moltres was ranked a 7-point mon. I think it's probably like 10 or 11-point mon. Probably at least right now. So I think this is definitely an S tier mod. And Scorching Sand hits Heatran, which is definitely nice. A lot of rock types introduced with the fossils, but I don't think you care a whole lot because a lot of the fossils aren't going to be that great either. just a couple more months, I would be able to handle Moltres. So Dragonite, this is going to be an interesting one. We have Hydro Pump, Dual Wing Beat, and Scale Shot. So no Hidden Power Ice makes Dragonite significantly bulkier with a multi-skill, and obviously you're going to run Boots a lot of the time with Dragonite, I would imagine, though like Lefties or Weakness Policy could also work. But no Z moves really hurts a lot. That was like the defining set with Z Fly was super strong because there's not a whole lot of flying resists. That could take like a Dragon Claw afterwards. Z Flying and Z Dragon. I also like Z Thunder Punch was also nice to break down bulky waters. So it's going to be tough to break down the fairies with the current Dragonite that it is right now, unless you're like Weakness Policy and have a Defogger on the team. So you might go more like the Dragon Dance offensive as a set. You could also go with Substitute Roost, kind of like Generation like 5, 6 was. There's a lot of dragons that are going to be introduced, and I don't think I would pick this in Tier 1. Cash Gangs had it at, I believe, 14 points, and I think that's fine. I think it's going to be a pretty solid high Tier 2 option, which might surprise people, but I think this is definitely a step below from where it was from Generation 7. So, Crobat, we got a Crunch, Hurricane, Dual Wing Beak, and it has speed. I was mentioning before, there are not many speedy Mons. Crobat definitely has it, and it also has Boots, so it's going to be a faster than Noivern. Same speed as Aerodactyl, weaker than both, but it has better setup and Nasty Plot compared to Dragon Dance. Can take on Rillaboom, sets up a Corviknight. If you go like Nasty Plot, Hurricane, Giga Drain, Heat Wave, or Roost instead of one of those moves, that could be pretty solid. Sludge Bomb even to take on fairies very well, because there's going to be a lot of fairies introduced. Coco, yeah, all the Tapus. It could take on all the Tapus. I guess if you run Scarf Crobat, you could outspeed a Coco and do a lot of damage with Sludge Bomb. Doesn't do a lot to Dragapult, that's still I'm on, but it's definitely better than it was. What's Crobat ranked in this document? Crobat was ranked 11 point. I think it's probably closer to 12, 13 point. I'll put it right here. So, Raiku, we got a Agility Scold, Aura Sphere, Weather Ball. No Hidden Power Ice, so that makes it a lot harder to revenge kill like +1 speed dragons, like Salamander, like Dragonite. So that's unfortunate. Now you have Scald, which is nice to hit ground types harder, unless if it's like a water ground type like Seismitoad, you're still not going to hit, unlike having Hidden Power Grass previously. Agility is a cool move on Raikou. I was in a Torn, did pretty well with the National Dex, but Agility Raikou is definitely a cool tech that it has. You can run Aura Sphere now with any nature. I think you had to run like a minus but def nature or something, so that's definitely a buff. And I was saying before, there's a lot of flying types that are introduced. Beats Corviknight. So I think Raikou is going to be pretty solid. But I feel like it struggles against top tier Galadex threats like Excadrill. Insane is going to be a problem. Zeraora outspeeds. In close combats, Dragapult is still a thing. Dracovish is a thing with Scarf. Hydreigon, even though Raikou has Aura Sphere, Hydreigon could be an issue with Earthquake or just Dragon Ant or Nasty Plot sets in Necrozma. Since Raikou doesn't have Signal Beam, I think that's actually like probably the biggest monster affected by Signal Beam is Raikou. I'm going to put it in average. Yeah, I'm going to put it in average since there are a lot of flying types that are getting introduced, but no Hidden Power Ice is pretty unfortunate. Entei gets Weather Ball, Scorching Sands to hit rock types, so that's cool. Though you just burn them with Sacred Fire anyway. Entei didn't care about using Z moves, and Boots are nice to get Sacred Fires off more consistently. I feel like you want to run Band a lot just to get that significant 50% power boost. There's a lot of rock types and dragons that are introduced, and it's base 100 speed, which is nice that you can run plus speed nature with extreme speed flare blitz. But it's a little slow, but it handles Corviknight, Melmetal fine. But I feel like you just want a lot of the other fire types. I feel like I'd prefer Darm. I probably prefer Incineroar, Moltres, Talonflame. Like Entei's cool, and like getting the 50% burns seems great, but I don't think it really got any better. I'm gonna put it at average because Boots are nice. Suicune got nothing. It got Air Slash, lost Signal Beam, so weak move to hit grass types that isn't Ice Beam. Sure, didn't change. Slowbro Primarina got better. Slowbro might be better than Suicune, but I think it's still a pretty high tier water option, so I'm gonna put it in in between these two. Sceptile, Solar Blade, Cross Poison, Dragon Dance, Grassy Glide, Scale Shot, a lot of physical moves for a pretty crappy 85 base physical attack. There's a lot of train users out there, so you can use Unburden, I suppose, and an outspeed Cinderace, which is definitely nice, but no Hidden Power Ice for dragons, or Hidden Power Rock to hit fires. Now it has Dragon Pulse, which is fine. Cash Gangs had this at 4 points, and I think it was probably better than 4 points, but it's probably a low tier 4, high tier 5. It was probably in tier 4 for the most part in Showdown draft leagues or Wi-Fi draft leagues, so I think it's going to be a low tier 4, maybe a high tier 5 mon. I guess it will have a benefit that there's a lot of crappy mons, and just because the starter has decent stats, so it will be better by that regard, but still not great. But Blaziken is going to be a lot better, and this is assuming no speed boost, but it gets U-turn, close combat, so you don't have to miss, unlike high jump kick, Aura Sphere, Scorching Sands, probably doesn't help a whole lot, but U-turn, close combat, it's a really nice combination. Still doesn't really hit bulky waters and dragons that well, but I think it's a better Scarf than Passimian, and what benefits from a Blaziken as opposed to, say, like Mienshao, it's slower speed, but he also has really high base power moves, close combat, Flare Blitz, and Brave Bird. So I'm going to put Blaziken at a slightly above average. It was probably like a 8 or 9 point mon in Cash Gang, and I think it's going to be better than that. So Blaziken was an 8 point mon. Yeah, I think it's probably like low tier 3. Swampert, you got Samtoon, Bulk Up, Darkest Lariat, High Horsepower, Liquidation, Body Press, no Hidden Power Grass. So that is like super huge. And a lot of the rock types introduced, I said before, so really nice counters there. A lot of the electrics didn't necessarily get grass coverage. Like Thundurus has grass enough, but outside of that, not a whole lot do. So it really handles those mons well. It handles Cinderace, Corviknight, Barraskewda, Melmetal, Toxtricity, all really well. There were a couple of grass types introduced, like Cortana, Bulu, Rillaboom still around, Ferrothorn. And I feel like more mons got Freeze Dry. So that's a little bit unfortunate, but I wouldn't consider this mon a tier 2. I think it's still tier 3. Cash Kings had it at tier, or a 9 point tier. I think it's definitely better than that. So let's put it probably right here. I think Swampert is going to be very, very decent, similar to how Seismitoad is and how Gastrodon is currently. We got Aggron, so Body Press, Rock Blast, High Horsepower, Power, Steamroller, Meteor Beam, all okay mons, or moves. Body Press will be nice. It's going to probably be a low tier 4 option. Cash Kings has it for 3 points. It's definitely better than a 3 point mon, I would say. Do I put this above average or average? It kind of really depends on how you ranked Aggron before. We'll put it at above average, I guess. Altaria, I liked Altaria. I had Altaria for Clash of Kings for APA. No Hidden Power is nice. It has dual Wing Beat to boost its Dragon Dance potential, I suppose. A lot of fairies, a lot of rock types introduced. Cash Tanks had it as a 1 point mon. It's still going to be below average, still going to be tier 5. It ranks a 1 point mon in Cash Gangs. I can't give it a D. And boots are okay for it. Cradilly has Power Whip and Meteor Beam, so 2 pretty strong attacks, which is nice. Problem is, it's a grass and rock type, so it doesn't really handle flying types super well, especially because its physical bulk isn't great. Its special bulk is a lot better. It's weak. It's a tier 5 pick. It's an okay electric response, but a lot of electrics are better and have some type of fighting coverage. And I'd just rather get Ferroseed or Roselia as a lower tiered grass type, maybe even Blossom or Go-Go. So I think below average, I think is fair. Armado got nothing new that's useful, but it has Boots and Rapid Spin. Stronger than Avalugg, but not as bulky, obviously. Doesn't help versus the top tier threats whatsoever. Doesn't really take flying moves that well because of the bug typing, but it has a Rapid Spin boost. I think it's like 2 or 3 points in Cash Gangs. It's probably a better option than before, but I think it's still probably a pretty average mon. It does get a Rapid Spin plus 1 speed boost, but you're still not going to outspeed base 100s with it, which is pretty crappy. So I think right there is appropriate. Absol got close combat. Really nice to hit steel types. Some steel types like Metagross, Corviknight, Skarmory, Celesteela, they're all neutral to close combat, so it's not going to hit hard, but it is going to do some damage. It'll do damage like Registeel, I suppose, with Sword Stance. It'll be fine, but then it dies to a Body Press, and it won't take it out in one hit. No Pursuit makes it pretty bad. Cash Ganks, and I like Absol a lot. Absol is ranked as a 3-point mon. Probably Draft Leagues had it like as a tier 4. It's probably between tier 4 high, tier 5. Still not great. Walrein has Icicle Sphere, Sword Dance, Hydro Pump, Heavy Slam, Liquidation, Body Press, and Boots, and Oblivious. So if you have Intimidate, it's not going to lower an attack from Sword Stance. Thick Fat, also a nice ability. It's still really weak. I don't think anyone would have considered drafting it before all these boosts. But I think it's draftable now. So I think it has to be ranked higher before. Like a mon that no one would ever draft. So I think it's a mon you would consider drafting in tier 5. So I'll put it right there. Definitely got better. Relicanth, Body Press, Liquidation, Scale Shot. That's cool. It had Rock Polish, though. Rock Polish Head Smash. Seems cool in theory. I don't think anybody really used it before. So it's in the depths, and I think it's pretty overshadowed. Salamence, here we go, an interesting one. Hurricane, Dual Wing Beat, Scale Shot. There's a lot of fairies and rocks I was saying before, but there's no Hidden Power Ice. Boots are super nice for Salamence to get a little bit higher HP. It's not as bulky as Dragonite, which is a downside there. But I don't think it's as dependent on Z moves as Dragonite, since it's faster, which is nice, even though Dragonite does have extreme speed. But it just has to waste a slot in order to have that faster option. Defensive options could work with Intimidate, and no Hidden Power Ice available. So I think that gives that slightly more versatility than Dragonite. And I think it's going to be better than Dragonite. I think Dragonite was slightly better than Salamence in Gen 7. Dragonite was probably like a low tier 1, and Salamence was probably a high tier 2. I probably switched the roles. I think Salamence is probably still a really high tier 2. Dragonite also joined in that regard. But I think Scale Shot plus Moxie is also a really cool set that Salamence can use. So we'll put Salamence at average. We'll put it above Suicune, because I think it does benefit slightly more. Suicune is like the threshold of nothing really happened to it. Metagross, Cosmic Power, Meteor Beam. So there's limited steals, so instantly is better in my opinion. And I said there are a lot of flying types. Metagross handles flying types. A lot of fairies that are introduced with the Tapus, Metagross handles those. I think this is going to be a very, very solid mon. It was already pretty solid, so I'll put it right here. Regirock got Body Slam and Heavy Slam, Body Press and Heavy Slam. It's a good tier 4 rocker, handles flying types. Nothing really changed. Very solid mon in my opinion. Regice, nothing happened to it either. It got boots. It didn't use Hidden Power because it got a Thunderbolt Ice Beam already with Focus Blast, so great coverage, and it's going to be a little bit bulkier. But then you don't have Life Orb, so it's not as strong. Cash Gangs had it as 3 points. I think it's definitely better than that, so we'll put it right here. It's better than Jinx for like around the same price, low tier 4, high tier 5. Registeel. Heavy Slam, Body Press. Same moves as the other mons. But the thing is, it's a steel type, so it's going to make it above average for me. And it gives it a really solid setup option. Unlike Curse with Iron Head was pretty unreliable at Sleep Talk. I think Registeel with Max Special Offensive with Iron Defense and Body Press, that's going to make it a really solid sweeper. And it's going to be a lot less passive than it was in the past. So I think it actually got significantly better. I think Registeel is probably ranked as like a 10-point mod. And I think you could argue even low tier 2, but I think I'm probably among the best tier 3s. I think Registeel is going to be super solid in this format. We got Latios. Here we go. A crap ton of moves. Mystical Fire, Agility, Tri-Attack, Baton Pass, Future Sight, Dragon Dance, Aura Sphere, Scale Shot. Didn't really care about the Hidden Power loss. especially because you got Mystical Fire now, so you don't have to run Hidden Power Fire. And you also have Aura Sphere to hit Steel types harder. It wasn't a top Z move user, but it definitely used it and was pretty nice in that role. And it helped mitigate knockoff damage. So it was fine as a Z move user. It has a good speed tier, again, faster than base 100, which is nice. It has option to hit Steel types. Do you want a stronger option as a Dragon type? I generally do. But Darks are also pretty limited, and Dark types aren't as good. So I think it is better than what it was for Generation 7. I'll put it at the end of the slightly above average, because Cashgang's had it at 14 versus Latios is at 17. And I think they're probably closer to each other here. Latios got the same moves. No Z. I think that's pretty unfortunate, and it doesn't break fairies nearly as well. Latios didn't necessarily break fairies anyway. I think Latios and Latios are going to be probably pretty similarly ranked. Z move access is definitely, I think, probably not as big of a loss for Latios as it is for Dragonite. So I'm going to put it at the top of slightly below average. I think Latios and Latios could be about the same price at this point. Spiritomb got Poltergeist, whatever it is. Makes it a lot better, you would think, from like base 90 or so attack, but no Pursuit. That just sucks for it so bad, because it really doesn't handle psychic types, and it really didn't do a whole lot outside of that. And all the Tapus are back, so a lot of fairies are introduced. I think it's probably got the worst end of the stick. It was only 5 points for Cashgang, so that's probably like low tier 4, high tier 5. It's going to be a tier 5 mon. Could even honestly put it in D tier. We'll put it in D tier. No, Poltergeist is a nice move. We'll keep it in below average. Garchomp, Scale Shot, Scorching Sands. Scorching Sands you're probably not going to run much, so Scale Shot. No Hidden Power Ice also, so that makes it a lot bulkier, which is great. No Z moves, so definitely a lot weaker in that regard. And Z move Garchomp was probably among the best sets out there, but like Sword Stance plus Scale Shot, it's going to be super nice, and it's going to be able to break and sweep. Garchomp was a little bit harder to sweep just because of the low speed, unless you had like a Salac Berry, and now you don't have to worry about that item. You can run a move that does that, and Scale Shot hits just about as hard as Dragon Claw, so that's nice. You can break with Sword Stance EQ against fairies like fine enough, and outspeed is base 100s. So unlike Latios, I think Dragonite and Dragonite that I think get hindered a lot by lack of Z moves. I don't think Garchomp is as worried about that. So I think Garchomp got a little bit better with the without Hidden Power Ice being around. So we'll put it right here. Electivire. I guess Electabuzz isn't on here. We'll talk about Electivire. More physical attacker. So Hidden Power Ice Loss isn't terrible because it has like Ice Punch if you want to break ground types, I suppose. There's more flying types around. So having an electric type is nice. It doesn't have a whole lot of versatility though, besides being able to go physical or I guess special. Special's got to be a lot worse now. It's like a low tier 4 option. I got Teleport, but it's probably not that great of a user of Teleport. I think it's about average. Magmortar, you got Mystical Fire and Scorching Sands, so you have the ability to hit rock types, which is nice. But Magmortar is still pretty slow. Boots are nice on it, and Teleport is probably better on Magmortar than it is obviously with Electivire, because Electivire has Volt Switch, and Magmortar outspeeds base 80s. So I think that they're all benefits, but a lot of rock and dragon types are introduced, and you won't be able to hit them with Hidden Power Ice or like a Hidden Power Grass. And like, I just rather have a lot of other fire types, even like Reboot. I probably prefer over Magmortar. And like Scorch or Charizard, they benefit a lot with boots, I think even more than Magmortar. So it's probably a tier 5 mon. Got the short end of the stick. So I think it's below average. It's going to probably be a pretty high tier 5, maybe low tier 4, just because again, tier 5 was terrible. I don't know if it's that terrible, but I think it's worse than it was in Gen 7. Electabuzz, Magmar's pretty irrelevant. Electabuzz is faster than base 100s, so Electabuzz probably sits around the same area as Electivire, maybe slightly better. Uxie, so it got Drain Punch, Psycho Cut, Draining Kiss, Tri-Attack, Baton Pass, Encore, Nasty Plot, Stored Powered, Play Rough. So all 3 of these pixies got it. And I think Uxie benefits the least. out of those. You can justify a little bit of a more physical Uxie, but its attack is 75. That's really bad. You can't boost your physical attack. And special attacking wise, Draining Kiss to give a little bit of recovery outside of using Rest is fine with Nasty Plot, but I really liked using the Super Berries on Uxie, and not having that capability makes it pretty frail in that regard. Like, it's bulky, but you're not going to be living a ton of hits at this point. No Z moves kind of makes Uxie not as useful to take on like really strong moves in general. It has okay general utility. Do I want to put this below average? I'm going to put this below average. Yeah, I don't think Uxie is good as it used to be. I think Mesprit is probably at least as good at this point. Uxie was 10 points versus 9 points for Mesprit. I can see Mesprit being a little bit better. And Mesprit's going to go into the middle tier for that same reason. Mesprit liked having Z move access, but you can run Life Orb. That's fine. The lower speed is a little unfortunate. Like, you don't outspeed Heracross or Como. Not that big of a deal. But it is a Healing Wish user, so I think that's really nice in that regard. So we'll put Uxie right here. Azelf, I think, got significantly better with Drain Punch, Psycho Cut, Play Rough. So you have options to hit Dark types now on the physical side, which is super nice. And it has a base 125 attack, so it's nothing to slouch at. And it's base 115 speed. So knockoffs are going to be outspeeding Lotties. You'll be outspeeding Garchomps, Kartana, Gengar, Terrakion, Keldeo. That's pretty massive. So the physical moveset is Elemental Punches, Knockoff, U-turns at Headbutt. Now you have Drain Punch, now you have Play Rough into that mix. You're going to have a lot more options. And it's still a high-end special attacking threat. And I think Life Orb is still fine on this. I think it's actually pretty significantly better. Uxie was, or Azelf was 11 points. Yeah, I think it's going to be a very, very high tier 2 Mon, in my opinion. Heatran got a Heavy Slam, Heat Crash, Body Press, Scorching Sands. There's no hidden power grounds that Electric can use, or even just general attackers that could 2-hit KO with HP ground, though Heatran bulk was pretty nice. Some electric types have fighting coverage, but with Chapel Berry, Heatran should be able to take 2 hits. And handle a lot of the high tier threats like Clefable, Corviknight, Ferrothorn. You could even run Air Balloon to take on Melmetal pretty well. Nidoqueen, Nito King, Garchomp, and Zygarde will introduced, but you can run Balloon for those. Should be fine. Steel types are pretty limited, so definitely better. You like Z moves on Heatran, like Z Solar Beam to hit water types, but you have any Nature Eruption, which is also a really nice benefit. I think both are pretty solid. It's gonna be, I think, Metagross, I think. I think Heatran benefits slightly more. You have the option to run Eruption with any nature. That's pretty cool. Regigigas, Mega Punch, Mega Kick, Protect, Rest, Body Slam, Heat Crash, Body Press. Got nice some stab moves in lieu of Return or Frustration. Body Slam is nice for Paris, especially because of Slow Start. But Rest is the kicker. It's not as bulky as Type Null, and not as versatile because it doesn't have U-turn. But I think it can set up better than like a Sword Stance Type Null, because you can run a Rest, Power Up Punch, normal stab, and then either Sleep Talk or a coverage move. I don't think you need Sleep Talk just because Regigigas is so bulky. Only fighting types you're going to be able to take it on very well. You could call it like a Snorlax, but less versatility, less special bulk, but more physical defense. And it's draftable. It wasn't really that draftable previously. So I think you have to put Regigigas pretty high up there. It's like at least probably a tier 4 at this point. I think around the same range as a Type Null, maybe even better. Cresselia, Cosmic Power, Stored Power. No Z crystals around, so nothing to like really nuke Cresselia, which I think benefits Cresselia a lot more than like Nidoqueen or UC, that I think I said they were like a downfall that Z moves aren't around, because Cresselia can't heal up HP better, so, or heal up HP at all really, so that's nice. And like a lot of the Gen 8 Mons don't have Toxic, so there's a little bit less Mons that Cresselia has to deal with Toxic wearing it down. Base 85 speed is really nice. You are walled by Steel since you can't run a Hidden Power Fire anymore, but I think it's a very solid mon. We'll put it at basically average. Victini, Fire Spin, Baton Pass, Encore, Future Sight, Scorching Sand, Expanding Force. No Pursuit is going to be great for this mon. And Boots are going to make it a lot bulkier. To utilize Flame Charge sets are going to be nice. I think you probably want Weakness Policy over Boots maybe, but it just gives Victini just base 100 speed access to U-turn and do it without taking 25% every time or having to rely on Defog or Rapid Spin. I think it's going to be pretty nice. Victini didn't really use Z moves or didn't use Hidden Power outside like Hidden Power, Grounded Hit, Heat Drain, which you don't have to worry about anymore because you have Scorching Sands. A lot of fairies were introduced, which is nice. A lot of fossils, but Victini doesn't really need to worry about the fossils, especially because it has electric coverage to hit most of them, or grass coverage, or Scorching Sands now. Handles a lot of decent top-tier threats in Galore, like Corviknight, Kyurem, Melmetal, Aegislash, Rillaboom. Seems a lot of fun to use. I think it's going to be pretty decent this gen. Audino, Body Slam, Mega Kick, the bulky normal type, Lickilicky and Kenga already exist. Audino super passive. It has Boots. It's a Healing Wish user, so I think both of those are really nice. I think it's going to be pretty minimal impact. Boots will allow it to prevent 2-hit KOs, so I think Audino it's fine for where it was. High tier 5 Pokemon, maybe low tier 4. Caracosta, Razor Shell, Rock Blast has Boots for guaranteed Shell Smash, and you would outspeed like Thundurus. You wouldn't outspeed base 115s, I believe, but you outspeed base 110s. So that's nice for Caracosta. No Z moves though, so you can't guaranteed hit with Rocky MZ. So I think it's fine, average. Archeops, if you guys know me, you know I love Archeops. Dual Wing Beat, Meteor Beam. No Z moves, which really hurts a lot, but it has Boots, so it's a lot more bulkier. I feel like Archeops I was just using as a mostly suicide one-time, get a super strong attack off. But now you can play a little bit like a weaker, well, it's a stronger Noivern, but less speed type of deal. Same thing with similar to Aerodactyl, stronger but less speed. But I think a really cool option is going to be Meteor Beam, just because Archeops, I believe, is it 120 special attack? Archeops is 112 special attack with Meteor Beam. That's going to be nice. And then you use like a Power Herb. So you have +1 special attack, Meteor Beam. It doesn't have the greatest special coverage, but it has a little bit of special coverage and Heat Wave, Ancient Power, Dragon Pulse, Earth Power. So it has okay special coverage, but then you can power up a Acrobatics after using the Power Herb for Meteor Beam. So I think there's a lot of options there. It has Heat Wave for Corviknight. Power Herb, Meteor Beam is going to be a really strong nuke option. It would like Hidden Power Grass, but it's not that big of a deal. I think it's an overall slightly improves compared to Generation 7. It was nice in Generation 7, but I think a lot of people ranked it lower than me. It's a 6-point mon. I think it's going to be a very solid Tier 4 option in Generation 8. Cryogonal, it got no moves, but it got Boots. Same thing as Articuno, but benefits a little bit less. But it does outspeed Garchomp, outspeed Dracovish with Freeze Dry if you're Scarf, Como, and then if you Rapid Spin, you're going to be guaranteed faster if you don't want to run Scarf and you want to run Boots instead. So yeah, I think this mon benefits a ton. We'll put it right here. I think it's a really solid option, and Rapid Spin user. Tornadus, regular. I think between regular Tornadus and Tornadus Therian, Tornadus regular I think benefits more from the change, which is Weather Ball, Endure, and Nasty Plot. Endure, I guess Saligberry is okay with Tornadus, though it could just run Substitute to get the Saligberry range. Boots will be nice to give it a better chance to Nasty Plot, and Tornadus regular has a better special attack than Tornadus T, with lower speed, but still really high speed, again, because I was saying there's so limited speed in general. There's a lot of rock types, but you can run Grass Knot or miss with Focus Blast like you'll miss with Hurricanes. So a little bit unfortunate there. I think both mons are going to be in the average range. I don't think they got necessarily that much better or worse. But boots are super nice, especially boots for Tornadus. It's going to be good. But you're also missing out on Z moves that guarantee to hit flying moves. So I don't think it's really better or worse necessarily Generation 7. It'll be about the same. But I think people are ranking it as like among the best Generation 8 Mons, and I think that's a little cap overrated for sure. Thundurus has Weather Ball. Lack of hidden power and Z moves hurts regular Thundurus, I think, a lot actually. I think I would rank regular Thundurus definitely below average. And I think Raiku is going to be better, honestly, because it has better speed and it has Scald to hit ground types. There is the Grass Knot coverage, I suppose, with Thundurus, and Thundurus could go for Party Pranksters, but I think Raiku is going to be the better mon. Thundurus T, still going to be pretty nice, though. I don't think the lack of hidden power is going to be that much of a difference for it, and Thundurus T can set up with either Nasty Plot or Agility, especially Agility a lot better, just because there's a higher special attack on Thundurus T than Thundurus, so you're going to be able to sweep better. Thundurus T is still obviously worse than Zapdos, but I think it's going to be pretty nice. Thundurus T, I'd probably actually rank, if I put Thundurus around here, I'd probably rank Thundurus T maybe in like this range for Thundurus T. I think it got better, and I think Thundurus regular got worse, but I think it's still going to be worse than Zapdos. Zapdos is going to be more reliable, but I think Thundurus T did get better overall with the boots. Landorus T got Scorching Sands. If you talk about regular Landorus, definitely above average because there's no hidden power ice. It's probably going to put it around this range. Regular Landorus, I think it's going to be average. It's going to be similar to Generation 6 Landorus, which was very good. It wasn't like a top 3, top 5 mon, maybe. It was still very good in Generation 6, honestly. But there's general power creep, which is the thing. If you're going to make it a Generation 6 Landorus, that could either be like Rocky Helmet, U-Turn, or Choice Scarf. Corviknight is another mon that's around. That's a pretty big pain for Lando. So you got to deal with Skarmory and deal with Corviknight. Tyrantrum. Oh, Genesect is banned. Yeah, we're going to put you at the end. Tyrantrum, Rock Blast, Endure, Close Combat, Meteor Beam, Scale Shot. Scale Shot's pretty interesting. It's like a slower but bulkier Haxorus in that regards. No Z moves, and it kind of like Z moves, but like Choice Scarf and Choice Band were decent moves anyway. But it's also nice for Tyrantrum that electric types can't really revenge kill since there's no hidden power ice to hit super effectively, since Tyrantrum's special defense was very low. All 4 ground types were introduced: Garchomp, Nidos, and Zygarde, so that's kind of unfortunate for Tyrantrum, but they don't want to switch into Scale Shot. It was 8 points for Cash Gangs, and I think it's going to be better than that in Generation 8. I think it's going to be a cool, underrated threat. High tier 4, maybe even low tier 3, potentially. Aurorus got Meteor Beam, Weather Ball, Rock Blast, Icicle Sphere. Doesn't change much. Vanillix is a lot better. Pretty garbage, I would say. Carbink got Body Press. I don't think it makes it any better or worse. You're not going to draft it. Zygarde, Reversal, Scale Shot, Scorching Sands, Skitter Smack, even to hit grass types, so that's an option there, though Sludge Bomb, Sludge Wave is an option. No hidden power ice is pretty huge, and I think that's a bigger buff than most dragons, because Zygarde doesn't have to run Z moves for it to be effective. It was a nice Z move user for sure, but definitely didn't need to run it. And Scale Shot to be able to boost speed, not having to rely on Dragon Dance seems like a really, really nice option. I think it's going to be a pretty big threat in the meta game. Probably right behind regular Orlando. Not a whole lot of leagues I think are going to allow it, but we'll see. DNC, interesting mon. Got a crap ton of new moves, and I think for national decks, Mega DNC got significantly better. Regular DNC obviously get the same moves: Draining Kiss, Mystical Fire, Amnesia, Baton Pass, Encore, Stored Power, Play Rough, Body Press, Meteor Beam. There's no hidden power Steel around. I guess that doesn't make that big of a difference. A lot of the flying types have Steel Wing anyway to hit DNC, though they usually wouldn't kill. its attacks are okay. The base power of the moves aren't terribly high for DNC, and DNC doesn't have the best attack. I think DNC still could be best in a defensive role, even though it got a lot of really cool attacking moves. And DNC was a nice, like, if you used Z points, was a nice secondary Z move user for Z heal ball to heal up to full. It's 7 points in cash gangs. Is probably a little better than that, but I think it's still going to be pretty average. I don't think it's going to be as good as I think people might think it's going to be. Volcanion gets Fire Spin, Rain Dance, Thunder Thang, Endure, Heavy Slam, Heat Crash, Scorching Sands. A lot of those moves sound kind of irrelevant, and Volcanion loses Z move access, but I feel like not a lot of people ran Z move access on Volcanion just because there's a lot stronger options. And it still doesn't have anything to hit Bulky Waters, but it has Boots. And it's a really nice heavy hitter, and you could run like Fire Spin now. Fire Spin plus maybe Sunny Day, Solar Beam to like trap waters. That seems like a pretty cool option. I think it'll be about average. We'll put it here. Tapu Koko, I would put as below average if it didn't get Rising Voltage. Rising Voltage is just crazy. And it gets Close Combat, Stored Power, Play Rough. All those moves are cool, but Rising Voltage will make it hit harder by 33% than Generation 7 Thunderbolt. And it does get the nerf in Terrain, because Terrain doesn't give it as big of a boost. But I think it's going to be a really, really nice mon. And it still doesn't handle ground types, but you just U-turn on them. So with that much of a power boost, I'll probably put you here. Tapu Koko, that's going to be insane, trying to take Rising Voltage hits. Tapu Lele got Rest, Future Sight, Stored Power, Expanding Force, Train Pulse. You don't have fire coverage, so you're still walled by steals. I mean, you have Focus Blast, but like there's Metagross, Celesteela, Corviknight, all like are neutral to Focus Blast, so it's not going to hit super hard unless you're Specs, and then Specs are pretty easy to take on. And even like Heatran can take a Specs Focus Blast, especially with like a Chople Berry, and then kill in return with a Steel coverage. And a lot of teams are going to get Steals. But the thing is, there's a lot of dragons as well, so Lele kind of helps with those. So I think Lele is probably around average. Expanding Force is strong, sure. But I think it still has similar problems that it did last generation, even though last generation obviously was super strong and even banned in some leagues. I think Koko is definitely better and has ways to get around its checks better than Lele does. Bulu. Wasn't too high on it last generation. Close Combat, Play Rough, Darkest Lariat, High Horsepower, Grassy Glide. Has a lot of cool coverage like Play Rough and Close Combat. Still doesn't really handle the same like the mons that it didn't deal with before, which is weird and kind of unfortunate. And it doesn't have Z move access to go for like a really strong Wood Hammer without any drawback. It does get Grassy Glide. That's probably the biggest benefit, honestly, to be a pretty decent revenge killer with a pretty high attack. And it does it will able to take on dragons, which is like the one benefit over Rillaboom, and it also has Synthesis, so that's fine in that regards. And it could hit steals a little bit better than Rillaboom can because it has Close Combat, but still doesn't do significant damage. And then obviously Steel types will hit Tapu Bulu pretty hard. I think I do want to put it at below average. Yeah, I think so. Tapu Fini, Draining Kiss, Stored Power, Flip Turn, and Train Pulse. All four of those moves are super, super nice. It's gonna have Draining Kiss, which is nice recovery because it has low HP, so you're gonna gain a lot more HP from before. Weakness Policy, Stored Power sets can take on poison types pretty well just because Tapu Fini is so bulky it takes any one hit. Flip Turn, really nice momentum, especially on like Scarf and Spec sets that I think were very nice in Generation 7, especially Scarf. I think was a pretty underrated answer to some mods. Misty Terrain wasn't really nerfed in Generation 8, which is definitely great. And there's a lot of dragons, so it's a very decent dragon response, especially for Dragapult. Do I think it's gonna be? Yeah, I think it's gonna be one of the mons that gets one of the biggest buffs and pretty close to a top tier threat. I think Fini could be a tier 1 option, or like a round 1 tier 1 option, honestly. Lower tier 1, but I think it's definitely justified. Neolego, Rock Tomb, Hex, Corrosive Gas. Corrosive Gas is cool. Meteor Beam, strong special attack from Neolego. And if you go like Meteor Beam, Power Herb, and then go with a plus speed boosting nature, that seems pretty like a pretty interesting combination if you can get that set up. There's boots around and toxic spikes aren't as helpful as they were, so Neolego uses that little bit of niche and still doesn't really hit the ground and steel types that I guess it might be able to a little bit better with Z move access. But ground types aren't as good in general. And he didn't really run Neolego with Z a whole lot to break stuff somewhat. There's a lot of flying types around, as I said before, so it's definitely nice to have that rock type. I'm going to say Neolego is a little bit below average compared to last generation, just because Toxic Spikes and an Absorber aren't as helpful as they used to be. Buzzwole, Close Combat, really nice for Choice Scarf sets. Darkest Lariat, Dual Wing Beat. You don't have to worry about random hidden power flyings. And I think Scarf is going to be better because you don't have to run Superpower and keep continually lowering your attack and then getting the +1 attack boost to neutralize that. Now you could just have +1 attack continuously. There's not a ton of ground types around. There are more flying types and fairy types I said before, which is unfortunate. And I think I would rate Buzzwole higher if that weren't the case. But I think Buzzwole still could be pretty solid with Close Combat. Xurkitree gets nothing new. Has Tail Glow, Thunderbolt, Energy Ball, Volt Switch, I guess Hypnosis potentially. Not good bulk. It's kind of slow at like base 80-ish. Grounds exist, and there's no hidden power ice to hit Landorus or Zygarde, and there's no Z. I think it's a pretty bad option right now. Probably a low tier 3, maybe middle ground tier 3, but definitely falling from grace. Celesteela has Mega Horn, Cosmic Power, and Grassy Glide. And I think the big move out of 3 is obviously Cosmic Power. Cosmic Power, Leech Seed, Protect, Toxic, or 2 coverage moves, whatever. That's going to be pretty tough to take down. And now Fire types and Electric types are obviously the ways to take down Celesteela. You also can't use Z moves to do a lot of damage to Celesteela, so that's also a really big plus. Celesteela doesn't have Hidden Power Ice anymore for dragons, I guess, but Heavy Slam will do a lot of damage anyway. You didn't really need Z moves to be effective with Celesteela. It was nice for like Z ground to take out Electric types, or Z Stone Edge to take out Zapdos at +2 speed. So you'll probably be running Celesteela even more defensively than you were before, but I think that's okay. I think Celesteela overall definitely gets a bump, and because it's a steel type, I think I have to bump it up a little bit higher even. Yeah, Celesteela is going to be a top threat for sure. Kartana got Solar Blade, Endure, and Grassy Glide. Lost Z move access, which I think is really, really huge, because you want to run like Swords Dance plus Z Giga Impact to deal a lot of damage to mons that resists grass coverage and steel coverage, which is a fairly decent amount. And the one benefit would be like Bulu Kartana is going to be better than before. I had that combo once in a tournament, and it did very well for me. There's obviously downfalls to having 2 high-tiered grass types, but Grassy Glide on Kartana, that's going to be crazy. But you won't be able to blow through stuff like you were able to before. So that's kind of unfortunate. And I think Kartana definitely has a pretty big fall from grace here. Yeah, yeah, pretty unfortunate, because I like Kartana a lot. Guzzlord got nothing. All the top boosts are coming back, so more fairies are around. It's going to be a decent tier 5 mon, I guess. Yeah, whatever. Guzzlord, nothing. Stock Attacka, Heavy Slam, Heat Crash, Body Press. Body Press will be nice for steals. You still can't really break waters. Grounds are fighting types, and there's going to be a decent amount of all of them. Ground's not as much, but fighting and water, there's a lot. And it likes to get Z to get just get attack boost going with a Stock Attacka. Actually, no. Guzzlord is bad. We'll put you below average. It's 7 points for a Cash Gangs. I don't know any other tiers have it ranked that low, even though I think it's appropriate there. But I think it really did like having Z move access, so that's kind of unfortunate for Stock Attacka. And Blacephalon, Fire Punch, Solar Beam, Fire Spin, Rock Blast, Encore, Zen Headbutt, Scorching Sands. Specs and Scarf are probably more often going to be run than Z move or than Z moves were for Blaze, so that's not that big of a deal losing Z moves. And having boots could be nice. I think score for specs are still going to be better, kind of like for Entei having band is going to be better, but it does have the option of being a little bit bulkier. And there is no pursuit in the game, so that's going to make it a lot better to take on dark types. Decent speed above base 100, so I am going to rank it higher than Entei for sure. And it does get Scorching Sands to hit rock types outside of like Shadow Ball, so that's nice. And it does have physical coverage options like Fire Punch, Rock Blast, and Headbutt. They are options to run with its pretty high physical attack, so you might catch some Mons off guard. So I think it's a pretty, I'll make it a low A tier rank. And that's all the mons I'm going to talk about. All the other mons you see below probably aren't going to be allowed in standard draft leagues, but for Ubers leagues, they may be allowed, but I don't have that expertise on those types of mons compared to other people would. But yeah, let me know below. I'm sure you guys are going to disagree with a lot of the rankings. Again, B rankings, I don't think the mon's going to stay about the same as it was in Generation 7. If it's an S or A tier, I think it's going to be better than the rank that it was. And C and D tier, I think is going to be ranked worse than the tier that it was before. But yeah, let me know in the comments below if you disagree with this, and I'm sure you're going to disagree with a lot of it, but we'll see how the metagame introduces. And obviously the new Pokemon that we don't have any information out as of when I was recording this might change some of these rankings. But yeah, also consider giving a subscription. I'd appreciate it. But until next time, later guys.